We're here with Yann Konwinski of Laude Institute. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much.
It's weird to welcome you to your own lounge. We'll talk about that.
No, I am welcome here.
Yes.
Everybody invited is welcome here.
So your intro is very, very long, but you're a co-founder of Databricks and Perplexity. And now I think people are less familiar with the Laude Institute and what you're doing. It's brand new. We covered your Terminal Bench events recently.
Yeah,
so that was a little bit of a coming out party. But maybe just for folks who are out of the loop, what is the Laude Institute?
Oh, good question. Laude itself, beyond just Laude Institute, is an organization that gives resources to researchers at the exact moment that they need them. So we say right resource, right researcher, right time. And there's a sort of dotted line in the life cycle of a researcher who makes a company, which is when you incorporate. So after that, you want to raise venture funding. So Laude has a venture arm that funds researchers and researchy technologists that aren't coming from PhDs or professorships to build companies. And that's actually a path that I am extremely passionate about, with Databricks, Perplexity being companies founded by PhDs at the heart of a paradigm, respectively, big data for Databricks and public cloud, and then kind of search as Gen AI came around for Perplexity. So that's a part of Laude that I'm very passionate about, just helping researchers build the next Databricks, the next $1 trillion or so far $100 billion company. And before that dotted line, researchers need, in an unprecedented way, like an existential way, more resources to participate in frontier AI research. People doing research in the open, and inspired by Databricks and my history, I want big breakthroughs to happen in the open. From research, things that move humanity forward, like computing, silicon, or the personal computer, or internet, or big data with Databricks, or the next paradigm of search with Perplexity. So I want all that to be happening in the open. So I want to fund the researchers who are doing open research just in a philanthropic motion. And across both of those, there's Laude Ventures for the venture fund, the Laude Institute, this nonprofit for the upstream stuff, and across both, this obsession with shipping. In the case of the venture fund, shipping your code as product. In the case of the nonprofit, shipping your research as open source projects. And then there's this ethos to bring meritocratic principles, which researchers love, into the whole thing as a governing philosophy. So for researchers and by researchers. So the venture funding, there's 50 professors and PhDs, the top names like Jeff Dean and the top faculty at Berkeley and Stanford, and my co-founders of Databricks and Perplexity, who've invested in the fund and then give advice and make deal flow introductions. And on the institute side, it's my money as sort of a successful technologist, plus the money of other billionaires who have done well by their tech companies, giving money into the nonprofit to do this no strings attached grant writing that ultimately becomes a funnel for recreating the Databricks motion. Like make the breakthrough in the open, go become a billionaire tech founder that translates your research insight into products in people's hands. So that's Laude Ventures, Laude Institute, just kind of this one Laude vision.
A lot of visions. I'll dive in. I want to talk about Slingshots as a funding vehicle, but you mentioned a bit of this sort of Databricks motion. And I think that's an interesting analogy because Databricks is very unusual as a founding story. And I'm wondering if it's replicable.
Why do you think it's unusual?
8 co-founders?
The 7, 8?
Yeah. So basically, what was the model that you think really worked for Databricks, and does it transfer to the other Laude grantees who are not as big, who don't have this idea?
And I think OpenAI had quite a lot of co-founders. I think VMware had a decent number of early research team turned co-founding team. I think Snorkel AI as a unicorn came out of Stanford to have a pretty good size founding team. Core research teams, when they gel at a university or outside of a research lab in an industry,
they come as a unit.
Years of deep scars from working together, knowing each other's ins and outs, and team like the dynamism and like the gestalt, like sum is greater than the parts of working together as a team. They're great bets. So you kind of de-risked the founder divorce risk with that's one of the most big problems that VCs have to watch out for by having built a breakthrough together. You've also proven traction that you know how to come up with a disruptive idea. You still have to prove that you can turn it into a product market fit. But I think that the founding team size is one thing that there is some precedent for. The path from, I cited a few examples of the path from research, just massively successful startup. The Google co-founders, Larry and Sergey, obviously took research, NSF funded research, by the way, and turned it into one of the most iconic companies in the history of humanity. I cited some VMware. There's even examples, more and more examples of researchers besides Perplexity coming out of Berkeley, like LMArena more recently has become the de facto standard for evaluation for all of the whole ecosystem. And that was a research turned startup project now. So 10 years ago, I would have agreed that it was, and when we founded Databricks, sure, it was a little bit more rare. Now I think it's becoming the gold standard and the thing that, all the VCs want in on, and being inside the heart of it all, Laude Institute sort of bridges those two and is obsessed with that path to impact that so many researchers want to have. So I would say that I do believe we have reached the tipping point already of this being the most high leverage path from breakthrough to breakout company to world changing. Hopefully you'll get to that $1 trillion or beyond. Somebody will be at $10 trillion in value. So I think it's having a new norm and it'll be great for the world to have this path, because researchers they're both amazing founders and they're genuinely good people in that they're very utilitarian. They want to bring all of humanity forward, very pragmatic and reasonable and evidence-based. So I think the world needs a little bit more of much of that right now too.
Yeah, amazing. Let's talk about some of the research directions that you have funded through your Slingshot program. So we already featured Terminal Bench. People can go look at that episode. Arena, we already mentioned. We also just did an episode. One thing that we haven't talked about as much is JEPA, which you have a couple of JEPA co-authors in there.
That's right.
Maybe JEPA and then any others that you care to pick out.
But yeah, I've been asking people what's been buzzing as I've been talking to people at NeurIPS this year, and this idea that the language models themselves are more like compute or GPU a generation ago, where what can we build at the layer above? And in software systems, we've traditionally thought of VMware being a great example. You have the operating system and the underlying architecture. Now, how do you make a layer of abstraction above that empowers higher leverage decisions and choices and more applications that are more profound and powerful? So I think that's neat to think that there's this layer above, which is getting a lot of attention in the last year with context management, RAG being the most well-known kind of implementation of this. It's this layer above where we're managing how the agents work and how they make decisions, how many memories they can keep track, how many memories they keep track of. That's all at this prompt management. And it's not just prompt anymore. It's like tool usage and memory curation and lots of innovation happening at that layer above the core stack. Pre-training, post-training, distillation, and now we're talking about one of Delara, the PhD student working on some of this prompt optimization, JEPA related stuff, talking about post-training, and that's tying over.
Post-training, I like it. I like it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's tying over to, there's actually a little bit of bleed over where this layer above, now what we're talking about is compound systems or prompt optimization and context management is kind of getting a new level of buzz and a new level of enthusiasm and maybe a level up of the number of researchers working hard at that layer. JEPA, I would say, is probably up there or the most successful example of adoption so far of
DSPy.
Well, it is kind of embedded and adjacent to, so kind of like
I don't know what to make of it. It's like DSPy has like a couple years of branding and
yeah.
As a urban
sure. DSPy, the way I think of it is DSPy is something closer, more akin to a lang chain. So it's a framework for writing agent type codes. You give it a task and it takes natural language and it actually takes code and compiles natural language. So it's like a reverse compiler. That's DSPy. And the optimizers, which were born in the context of this DSPy project, they take a prompt and make it better. So
JEPA is the part of that.
JEPA is like
flagship
optimizer. Yeah. And it's using this evolutionary genetic technique, like a very old area of research reinvented by Laike, the main PhD student on JEPA.
Yeah, and then it's just like
really the way I zoom out and think about it is this layer above the core AI model stuff. And now it's broaching into doing model weight updates as well. And there's this big debate about, is it in the context? Is it RAG plus vector database plus whatever? And sort of like lightweight, very few. Like if I tell you I had yogurt for breakfast this morning, you can remember that. It's a very bespoke piece of information that I just told you. You didn't have to go pre-train your brain weights for another round of 10,000 GPU hours. You're able to lightweight way of remembering that. So that's kind of the parallel with this. And that also takes us not to get too sprawling here, into continual learning, another buzz area that overlaps a ton with this layer. So really excited about that. That higher layer, compound systems is kind of a word that people are using to capture it. Continual learning factors really close into it. Context management, prompt optimization, JEPA, better together. Those are some of the buzzwords floating in that area.
A lot of what your source of alpha is coming from the Berkeley ecosystem. Obviously, you're not exclusively Berkeley. There's a lot of Stanford. More and more Stanford.
I'd say kind of equal partnerships.
Right. Is there a risk of that you're just doing only West Coast universities? And
no.
Like, the good ideas come from anywhere, right?
That's true. So, and we have massive focus to beyond Berkeley, Stanford.
Yeah.
I would say it's power law. Big focus.
Which obviously, like, let's be objective. Berkeley and Stanford have produced a lot. So
that's right. Yeah. More than anything else.
Yeah.
But walk around here right now and you'll talk to Jackson Clark, second-year PhD from UIUC. I think second year from UIUC in Illinois. Several UIUC teams here. He's running a thing called SRE Bench. We have teams Stanford and MIT. Sorry, not Stanford. CMU and MIT, very well represented. Wisconsin PhD students around here. Caltech PhD students, lots of great projects. Of our Slingshots, I would say the majority are non-Berkeley, Stanford, or something. Maybe I need to double check that number, but lots of great projects and a heavy push. One example is I started this PhD club focused on entrepreneurship at Berkeley when I was a PhD student in 2012, called Computer Science Grad Entrepreneurs. It actually transformed in my brain eventually to this venture fund called Computer Science Grad Ventures, CSGV. And that was a prototype that turned into Laud eventually. So that's this lineage.
So you've been doing this a while.
PhD, 2012, PhD club. Now we've taken that, I've taken that, and I went to University of Washington. So starting with another West Coast school, and we started a club called Agent. Their CS department is in a building called Allen. So it's Allen Graduate Entrepreneurs Agent. It's a PhD student club on entrepreneurship. Then we went to Wisconsin and started one called Research to Impact. There's another one at UIC forming right now. There's another one at Stanford called Saplings. So, but a big focus on going to find the PhD students who are interested in shipping their research at CMU, UIC, MIT, Wisconsin, Caltech, all the top 15 universities, Toronto, Waterloo, and McGill.
Yeah.
And then the like Vector and Mila. So North America, bringing Canada into the mix because they've got also equally great universities up there.
Yeah.
There is a really big focus on creating a fat pipe of bandwidth to the root of where all the action. Like you can't get around that. The root of all of it's happening in Silicon Valley. Yeah, it's really opening like flying them out here more, engaging them deeply in the program, giving them money.
Let's be honest, getting you as a mentor.
That's right. And I'm collecting other Braden, who did Snorkel. He was a PhD of Chris Ray at Stanford, who went on to do a unicorn company. He joined Laud. So assembling a partnership, like a venture partnership, but for PhDs and researchers turn unicorn founder.
Yeah. I want to get to open frontiers, but one more question about just the NSF, which I think you mentioned once for about Databricks, but also I think you're trying to target the Laud grants as sort of NSF level, so prestige and impact. I think one thing maybe as like a spicy question is, well, what's broken about the NSF process that you're trying to fix?
I don't think NSF is broken. I love NSF. Okay. It has been probably the best investment the American public has ever made. Thousands X return on their investments. I mentioned Google earlier, Databricks, all these researchers came from NSF funding. And it's just been a paradigm generation. So DARPA was important at some point. There's been these paradigm shifts in how open research has been funded. DARPA was a key one. NSF's been a key one. And now NSF is not big enough. It was $1 billion a year for computer science, and that they're trying to cut that into half of that. But we need $10 to $100 billion to do frontier AI research. So it's not broken. They're trying to break it.
You need more.
It's insufficient.
You need more NSF.
And I think in addition to the mechanisms NSF has used to deploy the money, which are very effective, we have secret sauce in Silicon Valley of how startups find product market fit. We have really good pickers. We have venture capitalists that have their own sort of evolutionary Hunger Games way of like finding who is great, who are really good at having intuition when they meet a person to pick the next winner. That's a unique approach that NSF does not use. They do not make a little venture partnership inspired group of research partners who go do grant writing. You don't get equity back, but you do empower the right project, if you've got good pickers, you can actually have much more effective deployment of you can actually deploy an order of magnitude less capital and have more impact with this approach. And it's very complementary because you can still have traditional NSF. NSF brings faculty, many of which are very near and dear friends, into a centralized organization that is in charge of deploying billions and billions of dollars of funding, has an insane track record. And we are going to complement that with a much more Silicon Valley inspired approach of a high velocity, turn the funding around really quickly, have very strong opinions about the type of research we fund, and be very narrow in the type of research. NSF funds everything from like all types of research, from biology to, like computer to, and beyond, English research and anthropology and sociology. Like I said, 1 billion to computer science, 10 billion total. So 1/10 going to computer science, and NSF has to manage all of that. Laude and Laude-like approaches were focused very tightly on high impact computer science research. Yeah, especially AI, but AI systems, cryptography, security, and networking and architecture. So like other areas besides core AI as well. So by being so laser focused, we can go deeper by bringing in researchers who have shipped, researchers who started companies, researchers who had found product market fit. We can actually identify projects that are more likely to become a Databricks or an Apache Spark or Array or an LMArena sooner and with more confidence. And so I think it's a very complementary model, but nobody's ever done it before. And you needed someone to kind of step up and propose a pretty fundamentally different architecture or organization shape. Like, hire people in a different way. It's a nonprofit, which is, got its own challenges, but you want it to behave in a very lean, extremely high velocity way, like a startup. So that's what we did. It's working amazingly so far.
Congrats on everything. Final question. We have the Open Frontiers announcement, and you're also doing the Laude Lounge here in NeurIPS. How are you able to get such amazing people? You got Oriol Vignoles and Jeff Dean and
François Chollet, Dylan Patel.
That was a long one, yeah.
It's so fun.
So basically, like, what is Open Frontiers? Where is this all going?
Great, yeah. So Laude Lounge, basically, NeurIPS has needed a VIP lounge. We have VVIPs, the gods of computer science and AI, is, obviously AI particularly walking around the halls of that Giants conference hall. It's actually hard to find a chair, much less a comfortable couch.
You got meeting room 23A.
Oh, nice. It's pretty good. Yeah.
No. It's not a VIP lounge at all. It's just,
yeah. So the idea here is open 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Identify, and it's not too hard to know who the big names are. The high impact researchers, Yann LeCun, François Chollet, Yejin, Digi's over there, and Amit Talwalkar. And we kind of know the circles already. So it just took a lot of emails and texts to like, hey, if you're going to be in NeurIPS, across the street, we're just going to throw a VIP lounge Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, free food, Starlink Wi-Fi, open all day.
Chat with us for a little bit.
Yeah. You want to jump on a podcast. You want to talk to Swix. I mean, you're a big draw of people out here too. Walking through, people are like, oh, is that Swix? Yeah. Like you just walk through and you feel important. And you are important if you're hanging out here. So it's working.
So it's like the MVP of Open Frontiers.
Okay. So that's Laude Lounge. Yeah. Open Frontier is a project that I've been cooking on for a while in my brain, but really has come together in the last 3 weeks, really quickly. It's inspired by the core premise of open research that happened, that is symbolized by NeurIPS, right? People publishing their ideas. And what's happened in the last year is Western open science and research discourse has lost the #1 spot to China. So if you ask Stanford and Berkeley PhD students, which I have, dozens of them, and they're hanging around here, I'm going to introduce you. Where are the best papers, the most interesting papers about AI coming? They'll say I read twice as many interesting papers by Chinese startups than I did by Americans.
Because they just make an effort.
Yep, Moonshot, Chemi, DeepSeek, they're publishing really interesting stuff. They make an effort to talk about it. Whereas in the United States, since OpenAI closed their doors and stopped publishing, so did all the other labs.
Yeah.
And by and large, you go and you don't get to publish. You are actually working on the frontier at those labs, but you're not talking about it.
Yeah.
And so
you need to open the frontier.
So the openness is the key word. OpenAI was called OpenAI, and they were open for a while, and now they're not. We need something that fills in that gap to be a champion and bring together all open researchers to put forward a unified front so that we can operate at the frontier. And so that's what the goal of this thing is, to bring together every single organization that is leading in open research. So Laude Institute, François will be around for Arc Prize Foundation. We have Berkeley, Stanford, Skylab, Berkeley AI Research, Bear. We got, like Yejin's lab and Marin, the project of Percy Liang, who's kind of very senior at HAI and runs the Center for
Foundation models. He coined the term.
Exactly, yeah, foundation models. So, and Percy was in the lab with a lot of this is just my network because Percy and I were in the same lab with Matei and all the other Databricks founders back in 2008, back at Berkeley. So it wasn't hard to go find these people. Everyone I've approached said yes. The idea is like, let's team up, get together one day in San Francisco in the next 5 months and get the 100 most influential open researchers together for a conference and for meetings where we share our roadmaps and we talk about common goals amongst the entire ecosystem. It's kind of surprising this hasn't happened yet. And the thing we're basically doing is making an open frontier lab effort, starting with a conference.
And it's live stream, so it'll actually open
so that we
can actually see
like embody the democratic principles that have gotten us to where we are today, get an order of magnitude more people in the world watching the breakthroughs that are happening in these labs. All the continual learning, prompt optimization, BLM, SGLang, breakthroughs in inference, breakthroughs in evaluations, terminal bench, and a lot of other, I just heard for the first time about this benchmark called Impossible Bench. It's a genius idea.
Yeah, we talked about it with Jiang Yang.
I heard of it until, So that dissemination of what's actually happening will capture the world's attention. And in turn, the goal is to, with the world's attention, help this to gel into a well enough funded and resourced collaboration team up of the ecosystem that we can once again become #1 at open frontier research. Because that shouldn't
be so hard.
It shouldn't. Everybody I talked to is like, yeah, it shouldn't. And then I was like, how about we just put this conference together? They're like, that's a good idea. Okay, we're doing it.
Well, thanks for kicking it off. I'm excited to support it in any way I can. And I'm excited to see you next.
I'm sure you'll be there. And I'm sure everybody will be like, how do we get on with Swix?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure.